I think best way to be learn Python is just starting to scripting, right? Um, Nowadays, it was on my mind because when I sold the Hackbox machines, we generally using the POCs, right? So the for hackers, I think best way to be learn Python is just trying to be scripting POCs. If there's if there's even a POCs, right? So you have to be create your own, and at least you have to be learn what's going on and why is POC working, and I mean, you have to be understand what's going on the POC, right? So in this video, I'm trying to be scripting CVE-2023-1545. I found great blog about this POC, and it's talking about the SQL injection API authorization check-in. So in Teampass, right? So this is a Teampass, which is to open source. So sometimes the people, I don't know who it is, write the POCs, like it could be Bash, the Python, sometimes Go, right? So it's definitely it's been a bit to you. So there is no important which language you are using, but definitely if you want to be using something like that, when it's gonna be used, it's the Teampass authorized API endpoint is a vulnerable SQL injection, it says in the login field. And it's possible to forge arbitrary, the meaning is so important, and blowfish hash. So the main goal is you have to be grab the blowfish hash and use it to query bypass, which is this one, of course, the bypass password verification check. So the bypass verification check is on checker.http on port 8080, and you will be see here there's verification check, right? So it will be using the same query it's possible to find on arbitrary API key value, which is here. So it will be go on login and giving to here the none, and it should be given after known the SQL injection payloads, and I have to go for just password and API key. And when they do this, the proceed GVT doesn't contain valid username because there is no valid username. However, it's possible to be populate GVT, which is public key, the field it will be coming from arbitrary query. That has the return a single results. In this way, we potentially possible to read whole database even if it's on the field at the time. So our main goal is we have to be read is possible to read whole database, right? So this is the first thing we have to be understand. So I'm gonna just go here and give my goals, and my goals are which is here. So we have possible to read whole database. So how we can read the whole database? So first of all, we have to check if there is value. I mean, if there's a something on database, so database could be empty. That's the first thing, and then after that, we just need to be checking here if it's in checking on the codes. So they are checking here is API is not allowed or API feature is not enabled. So the first things, not this first things, that should be our 50 or 60 things, by the way. So first of all, we have to check if there's an API endpoint. So this is the first thing we have to be right about to starting with calling our script, right? So if there's the API key, then we can run our SQL command here, and then after that all, if we found that and run SQL command, our goal should be here. There is if something in database. So if something in database, then we can read whole database with our payload. So let's jump in. So I just created here POC.bash, which is definitely is working on the machine, and we will gonna be converted in Python a little bit. So the first of all, let's just start here, right? So it will check the usage. So you have, if you want to be used here on the Python, for example, it give the first value, which is your file name is let's call poc.bash. The second one should be your URL, which is calling here base URL. In Python, I'm going to use it here, import sys. And for this module, you can just go here, Python system usage, and there's a ton of things you can find. How actually the programmers, how they are actually coding. They just, for example, want to write something on a system module, and they just go to system module informations or what other people are doing. So they are just copy that and paste it. So this is how the scripting, or we can call it the programming, is going, right? Let's call import sys here, and they're using here. It says check if at least one argument is provided, and so they are using here f command, and the lang meaning on the Python, it means length, right? So this is just stand for of the length. I mean, length is stand of the length, right? So then they just give system arguments, and there's just two. For example, we can change it to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not important. So how much will you want to give? So, and there is no arguments. You can exit the program. So what I'm gonna do is, so first of all, I'm just want to be check it here. So let's call this tab 0, right? I want to check. I want to configure the tests. So because my POC will be work like Python 3 POC.python, and we have to give it here URL, right? So if you want to be check it on a POC bash, and you will be see here just file and the URL, I mean the target URL. So the Python project should be run the POC.python with URL. So that's the interesting things. We have to give it here the length. So my length system arguments. So this is the from here. You can also check it. I just copy and paste it. We have this two value here, which is the POC.python and URL. So we have to give it as a 2. So if it's this, we cannot run any other than more let's just say in this way, we cannot run any other more to variable here, right? So that's why I just did it. So print f length system word is 2. It has to be a print, and I want to show if people are using here the wrong. I want to say them usage is let's call we can just also using here system argument, by the way, and then there's we can call, by the way, let me show you really quick. If you want to use it, it's when POC.python, which is system argument 0. When we want to talking about on URL, this is system argument 1. So we have to say usage is system argument 1, and it will be printing POC.python. So when I'm gonna be checking it here, let me just go on, and we have to give it here or URL, right? So let's just call it here the URL. So what is URL about? So our URL should be it. Let's call it on this base. By the way, after that's all, you have to be exit on the program because it will be a loop. If you don't want to be a loop, you have to be just system exit. So now we can just give URL, or URL should be is. After we giving here Python 3 POC.python and giving here the URL, so we have to be just give it here URL, right? So Python POC.python, and I know it's gonna say nothing, right? So because we didn't give it here any URL things is here. When I'm gonna be run on the Python, so it will be checked here, giving take us URL and adding here slash. This is so important. Then after that, adding this directory list. So what I'm gonna do is giving here the the base URL here, which is system argument 1, of course, and we can just call it here 1. It's because I just talking about it. URL is 1, POC.python is 0, and our the sitrep, and let's just call it here. We want to be added here. When we want to be adding here something, we can use our strip, which is the slash, of course. Then we have to be create this base URL should be create the vulnerable URL. So let me call it this vulnerable URL, and then this vulnerable URL. By the way, we can also use it here the F because of the battery usage. Let's call here base URL, and after that base URL, we have to be added API index.php and authorize. So right, so let me just check. Yes, authorize. So well, index.php and authorize. So then after that's all, for example, we can run print base.url. So let me just verify it. So what's wrong? Yeah, of course it should be equal base URL, right? What? That should be equal base URL. What the fuck? Okay, this is wrong, by the way. It should be added here, of course. Let me run it again. And now, so we didn't give here any URL, and it says our usage POC.python, and you have to be give base URL. So let's just call, we give it here URL, and it will be print or URL. So if you want to use the here on the HTTP localhost, and it will be print or HTTP localhost. Otherwise, if we want to be print here vulnerable URL, so you will be see here there is a vulnerable URL which is here. So this is the first thing we have to be understand how actually our variables system and print is working, but we don't want to be printed the base URL or vulnerable URL here for sure. We just did. So let's just call this. I give the fifth value here. It will say nothing, or I will give the one value. It should say you have to be used with base URL. So there's the YV is using here length, and we just give it here 2. So when there's just one value, it says this is a 1, this is a 2. If there's just one value, it will say the usage. So the program should be say you are using wrong. So step 1 is okay right now. So that was step 1. So let me just call up these ones because that should be important later, by the way. Let's just call step 1, and let me check what should be step 1. The step 1 is we have to be check if there is a vulnerable URL on API usage and how it's actually checked. So for example, we will check it on here on the echo, and it will be used here echo here, then which is equal that one. And if it says our API usage is not allowed, it will just say API feature is not enabled. So then we exit the system, and if there's a not saying any API usage is not allowed, so that means we can just go on here and grab the API data. So let's call this check if API is enabled. We can call it, that's not a problem. So in the bash command they are using here if, but we can also use it here if, I think, but let's just use it here try and accept. For this one you can just go try accept Python, and you will be see here too many examples and how actually try and accept is working. You can just go the Python documentation. Of course, this is the best way to be learned. First of all, we cannot just scripting whole code by ourselves. We just have to be read it from somewhere and have to be learn how to coding, have to use try and accept. For example, in the system, they are trying to be reading myfile.txt, and if it's giving here error, and it will be trying to be understanding what is error and exit the system. That should be the first thing we have to try. For example, right now what we are trying to be do, is if there's an API usage is not allowed error we got. So for this one, we can use request. So how request is work? Let me show you. Import request, let me just import it first. We can also just go on here, request Python, and you will be see here how the request Python is working. For example, you can grab here status code of the steps is on here. For example, let's just go. We are just trying to be check response. We are trying to be understanding which response it's giving us. So we can just give requests. So if we want to be using here get method or post method, so we want to use it here get method. So that one we have to be just call vulnerable URL. And if you don't want to be give it maybe something wrong on your code, so if you don't want to be loop, so you can just use timeout, and we can just call it this as a 5. It means it's just 5 seconds. So when it will check response with request module and with get, and it will check vulnerable URL. So and you will be see here. So let me just call it this one. So that try. Let's just understand check what actually check response is doing, and let's call print. It says that, for example, you can just read our status code. So this is how it's working, right? So if you want to be check this, it will be on the, let's just call is it 200 or the 403, which is forbidden. But just for now, we are trying to be try if we are grabbing here the data. The which data is if it says API is not usage. So after try, just accept. Before to be accept using, we can also use request, and we have to be called request exception, which is SE. We can call let's just say print. We can call, let's say, error connection to vulnerable URL, and we can also have to be give here e value here and exit the system. Oh no. Okay, so now when we are trying to be go for on the system and grab the method they are using with get, if we have getting here 200 or 403 forbidden, for example, we have to be check if it says. So we can just go on here. If it says API usage is not allowed, what? Yes, of course. What the hell? Let's just call here if API usage is not allowed, and check response. So we are doing the response check with this, right? So we can read this text with the text command, of course, is here, and print API usage is not allowed, and exit the system, of course, again. Dump, and if it's not, so this is easy. This is easy. So if it says API usage is not allowed, we will understand there is no API usage. The else, if there is API usage, because there's two things. API endpoint is accessible. So this is easy. So if API usage is not allowed in check response text, which is here on the vulnerable URL, it will say API usage is not allowed. If it's not, API endpoint is accessible, because there is just two things, so no more, right? So then this one is also right. So we can try, of course, Python 3, and let's try on our checker.hdb, and it will say API endpoint is accessible, because it didn't find any API usage is not allowed message, right? So let me just go for step 2. The step 2 is, which is here, it's for bypass to what was it? Okay, so is it possible to forge an arbitrary bowfish hash and use it to query bypass password verification check? We have to give arbitrary hash because of the bypass to password verification check, it says. Okay, so we can just call it here step 2. Okay, give it the hash, let's call, and we can just call arbitrary hash, and that one is also here, and we can just call arbitrary hashes here. So this is how arbitrary hash is working, by the way. And but you cannot just use it in this way because Python is not working like that. And this is for give it the hash. Now let's just go for step 3. What was it? Okay, so this is we have to create exec SQL function here because we have to give it or payload here. All right, so that's easy. Let's just call exec SQL function. So we have to create exec SQL function, and we can use def, of course. And this exec SQL function has some to value here, right? So for example, we can just call here, and it's same in the math. So if we can call f x when equal to x, if x 1, then x fx1, right? So this is the same things. So we have to give it here some value. So if it's not anything niche, or if it's not anything let's just say in this way the specific things in this function, I'm definitely recommended to use as let's call here SQL query, because we will give here SQL query. So or payload should be changing, right? So and then it should be on a string, and then when it's going to be a string, so that should be our function first. Then we have to be inject or Python command. So let's just call, which is here, right? So that should be or Python command. I mean the inject command. I'm sorry. So let me just give it here directly, but we may want to check it here maybe something wrong. For example, it's not working in this way. So now we just we can just okay. So let's just in this way, and let's add it here f, and adding here the question mark also. Those are should be okay, but maybe something we have to change. For example, arbitrary hash. We cannot use it in Python in this way. So for changing arbitrary hash, we have to use parentheses, and now we can give it here arbitrary hash. And this is one value. This one value is meaning here. The first value is here. We gave it on the URL. So we have to give it here on the URL, or I think that's not URL, by the way. What's that? Oh, it's SQL query, of course. This is SQL query, of course. We have to give here SQL query, of course. And then private key, so the personal folder, and function ID, and group variables, everything should be same. So I don't think so there's something more interesting we needed. So let me just go on the next one. So, and let me understand. Okay, so it was here. There's no need to be check. And they are giving here data. So this is the easiest things on Python, because we can just give it here the data in Python just with, let me just copy it here. And the data is working in Python. We have to give it here spaces, of course. And for the better usage, you can try to be using in the parentheses in this way. And the login should be in this way, and you have to remove the backslash, and of course no $sign in Python. Let me just give in here inject, because we give it here inject value here directly, so we don't need it anything on the $sign and the question mark. So we just give it here the inject. But when you are using Python, you have to give it that one, of course. And the next one is password. So for password, of course, we can give it in question mark. And let me just change it in this way, and the colon, And for password, it's not the variable, it's just a value, so we have to be added in question mark, of course, I mean quotation mark, of course. And the next one is API key. API key should be equal that on this way. So, and then when we check it here on this way, on the foo, should be in the next one, and then foo should be here on the next one, of course. But we have to be close this parentheses, of course, which is here. Nice. And now let me find. Okay, so on dump, I'm always checking there. Okay, so the next one, they are using here the curl command. So this is a curl command, just giving here token, which is on header. So we can just run, we can also run the curl command directly on Python, but we just don't need it because we already imported here the request. So why not using here request? Why we are just needed to be used here anything with the curl command? That will be useless, right? So for that is one, we have to be just added here headers first. So let me just check what is headers they are using here. Here, content type application JSON. Okay, nice. So we have to be given in the parentheses, of course, and content type application JSON. Okay, headers is here, and then after that headers, we have to be given this command. Let's just say, so they are just using here the silent command on the Python with the post method, and give it the here data and checking all vulnerable URL. And with the vulnerable URL, they are cutting here the variables and base64 and reading public key. So first of all, for base64 we have to be use because of this one, we have to import this module, and there's JSON also, we have to be import JSON. You can also just go for import JSON usage Python, and you will be see here too many things about JSON and how they actually worked. But for this one we have to use after we give it here inject and data and our headers are ready, right? Let's just call gonna use it here try again, and we have response here first. We have response here because we are using here post method. Then we're gonna be using here post method. So we can use request. It's totally same. It's totally same. What we are using here, we are just creating a new response. But for this one, we have to use post method. So let me just add it here, the post method. After that post method, we have to be check vulnerable URL and the headers, which is equal to headers, and the JSON should be equal here data, and we give it our data here. And you will be see here how they actually work. So you give it here some JSON, and when it's gonna be JSON is giving you the parse, and the result Python directory should be equal your age, for example. So in here data we just give, so our JSON should be equal in the data. Right, so this is easy. And let me just check it this one again. What? And they are giving here token, so we have to be just grab the here token. So let me just grab it here token. So when we got response on JSON, let's just say get command with token. And if it's not token, if there's no token, I don't want to be fall in the loop, just return none, right? Okay, what? I mean, we will just check with the post method, go for headers on the application JSON and give the data, checking on vulnerable URL, and looking for token. And if there's a no token, nothing, just return none. Then after that, we can grab our token, cut it, and base64. So I'm gonna be using here the base64 first. We can just call payload. I think let's call payload base64. So we have to be base64 or payload with token ciplet, and we can just call it here on the just give it here the first value, right? So if we wanna be cut it and give it here the first value, we have to be using here dot and the first value here. The first value in the one in Python is the second value. So in Bash it's f2, it's the first value in Python. So that's why I just give it here 1. Okay, so this is important. And let's add it here padded and or payload base64 of course, and let's just call edit this on that one, and we are trying to be run it on the cut dash d and the giving here the second value, and let me minus in the length on payload base64, and should be fine. And let's just decode it with base64 base64 decodes of course, or padded, and decode it. Nope, in this way of course. And let's just parse it or data JSON loads and on decoded data, which is here, and return parse it here. Okay, parse it get of course, and the public key or public underscore k, public underscore k. Okay, and except, now we can use the same thing, exception se of course, and a print, and if it's not work, error in. Okay, so if it's just work when error in exec SQL of course, and after that all, if there's a error just return none of course. And now let me see. Okay, they are fine. So now if there's a users in the system, we have to be check it on this. Nice. So our second goal is on the way. Step 4, enumerate users. So if there's a users, we will check with this, right? Okay, so let me just call it here. I'm gonna call user count. Let's just call, we have to be of course change it this, and have to be give it here exec SQL of course, exec SQL, and give it this payload, and if not user count, if not user count, print failed to enum users. Else, if there's a nothing, print users. Oh no, wait. Not else maybe. So if there's a not user, it's just say failed enum user and system exit. Okay. or print, let's call f, there are giving user count, users in system. Okay, let me just run. I want that. Failed enum users, it says. Okay. User count, exec SQL. Okay, exit the system. If not user count, failed enum user. Maybe our user account is wrong. No, I don't think so. Okay. I'm not sure if we needed to be give it on else. I think so. Failed enum user. Okay. Maybe something wrong we are doing. And here. I'm not sure, but maybe not. It seems like nothing wrong, but maybe yes. I don't think so, but we don't need it here else, by the way. Failed enum users. Okay, so maybe something wrong here. We give you here arbitrary hash and using here exec SQL and SQL query and strings and inject this one. Maybe this is wrong. I really don't think so. I don't think so. This is wrong. Okay, then just give me here data, login. These are not important, but let's just give it. Okay, that's not the issue, of course. Just give it here API key and give it here headers and content type application JSON. Response, giving you on the request on the post method and giving you vulnerable headers. Okay, those are correct. Token, maybe it's not correct, we will see. And if there's a not token, just return none. Payload base64, of course. Token split on the dot and giving here the, maybe this is 2. I don't think so. No, it's not 2, of course. Okay, padded and payload base64. This is easy. This is easy. Decoded base64 decoded. These are correct. Oh, return in the public key. Okay, we also get it. And if there's no error in exec, what the hell? We can just add it here F. Maybe there's something wrong on error on exec SQL, but of course it's not. It's we are dumb. How do we give here e-value? Because we used it here exception. Of course. That should be wrong. What? User count. I'm not sure. We just give here exec SQL and select count from Teampass user. Okay. If not user, let's say I don't know, let me just try here users, give me here users value now, and int let's call user count, I don't know, accept value error, print user is not integer if there's just not one user, exit system. Okay, maybe now. What? Of course it's not. Failed enemy user. What the fuck? Where the fuck am I doing wrong? F not user count print failed enemy user because of this. We are doing something wrong. Is it accessible? Yeah, it is. Maybe typo? I don't think so, but let's just check failed enemy users. What should be wrong? Let's just say, okay, don't care. Let me ask ChatGPT, maybe we are doing something wrong. Do you think anything wrong here? Okay, on an API check. Anlamı polişiyoruz bu çocuğu. Okay. GitHub.com. Let me find all my repositories. Maybe, maybe not. We will see. Okay, let me see if I did something wrong, but I really don't think so. This is interesting. Where the hell I did wrong, I really don't know. This is interesting. Okay, so we got our main command. So we found there's something on database, and we found 2 user, right? Well, we helped in the POC. So now we have to be sent the payloads on username and password, and we have to be grab the data. But before we grab the data, we have to be check on the range. Let's call for I in range and on users. Did we call here users? Yes, we did. Let's just call username. And we have to be giving here payload, so we have to use exec SQL. So let me find which is the payload. Payload is coming from here, from select, from here, of course. But we have to be change, of course, the value something inside the code. For example, it's not gonna be working like that because we didn't call it here in the Python. We just calling here parentheses. We call it in the here for I in range, so we have to be giving here I. Is it the same things for password? I don't know. Let's call password and exec SQL and giving the value again. Maybe they are Teampass users. Okay, those are seems like same, but let me just verify, right? I don't want to do something wrong again. And again, we have to be just to change here the I here with I mean. Nice. Print, let's just call username here, and let's just give the column, and let's call password here. I think that should work. Let me see. Let's say the column char one. Okay. Again, we did something wrong. Here. Nice. So we got it here. So we found pub hash, for example, and admin hash. So that was it. So this is really simple. I just want to be converted the bash to Python because we will learn something new, of course, with it. And thanks for watching.